Rouge Rants and Rhythm. Alrighty, welcome to Rouge Rants and Rhythm with Cousin Chloe, a show with a little bit of makeup, a whole lot of my mouth, and some of my music. So here's the disclaimer. I'm affiliated with many things and organizations. However, this show is unapologetically me, not any of them. So let's get started. Every once in a while, there is an issue that is bigger than any piece of makeup that I can put on my face and any song I can get you to remember. And when these things happen, it's time for a straight up rant. No rouge, no rhythm, just a rant. And this rant I've been holding on to for a while. You've probably been wondering why I've been MIA. I've been doing my research and I've been trying to come up with a tactical way to address this issue and how it truly affects people. But this really isn't a time for me to be diplomatic. It's just time for me to say what I gotta say. And what I gotta say is about the overturning of Roe versus Wade that happened on June 24th, 2022. The fact of the matter is that you cannot abolish abortion. You cannot ban abortion, but what you can ban is safety. Hate to say it, but women who need to get an abortion, they're going to find a way to get an abortion. And what's going to happen is it's going to cost these women their lives, whether they be prosecuted, or whether they honestly lose their life. So when all these people are talking about being pro-life, whose life are they pro? Because the last I checked, consent still matters even in pregnancy. You have to consent to have sex with someone, and you have to consent to have someone enter your body and be a part of your body and take up your space. This is way, 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 way bigger than abortion, because abortion is a part of women's reproductive health care. This is not about the unwed teen girl who doesn't want to have her baby. This is not about the girl who may have gotten raped and is forced to have a baby. This is literally about access to women's reproductive rights. Which brings me to my first part of my rant. Ain't no laws about male reproductive anything. Matter of fact, in some states and in some countries, it's easier for a man to get approval on his insurance for Viagra than it is for a woman to have access to birth control. That's ridiculous. I look at this as bigger and more of an economic issue also. It's amazing to me how you want to force these women, us women, because I am one, but then you want to force us women to have these babies, but you're not going to do anything throughout the process to ensure the safety of the woman while she's having the baby. You're not going to do anything to ensure that once this baby does appear, that you're going to make sure that baby is safe, that the baby has access to the health that they need, access to the education that they need, access to the food that they need. It's ridiculous the amount of people who are coming out and supporting the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So I've been trying to figure out how I want to address this. And I promise you, and I'm letting you know this now, and I'm warning you, this is about to be all over the place. So follow me if you can. I got my notes in front of me just to make sure I hit my points that I want to hit. But every time I start talking, I get angry. So that's also why it's been a while since you've seen me, because if you remember, this happened probably around the third week of when I started filming. And the amazing thing is I did have the opportunity to share a bit of my story. I had the opportunity to talk about this issue on a different show. So I used that as an opportunity to state my piece and state my points. But that show was very limited and I wasn't allowed to share all of my viewpoints. So I'm like, I have a platform and I'm going to use it. So as I stated before, you cannot abolish abortion, but what you can do is abolish safety. It's very heartbreaking to think about the amount of people who are going to lose their lives behind abortion and access to abortion, access to safe abortions. I see this hashtag all over the internet and on social media, which is hashtag bans off our bodies. And I'm all about it. And I find it amazing that the root of this abortion controversy is men. Because the last time I checked, women cannot impregnate themselves, yet the only focus on reproductive health care and reproductive rights is all about women. From the legislative, judicial, and societal, everything is about discriminating against a woman's rights. And I'm one of those people. If you are against abortion, then do not have one. However, do not stop someone else from taking care of their reproductive rights. I found a quote from RBG, one of my, what I consider an idol, or someone I definitely admired because of all of the great things that she has done for women. And the quote says, "The decision of whether or not to bear a child is central to a woman's life, well-being, and dignity. When the government makes that decision for her, she is being treated as less than a full adult human responsible for her own choices. My body, my choice." There is literally a war going on against women and their bodies. It is hard for women to get birth control. It is hard for women to get a Plan B pill. If you go into the store to try to get a Plan B, even though it's considered over the counter now, you still have to go. A lot of times they're locked up. A lot of times you have to go and get someone from the store. You know how embarrassing that can be for you? So it's already, you're saying you're giving the access, but really you're just setting people up for judgment because of choices that they need to make up for their own body. And again, until a man, a biological man, can bear a child, then you need not be a part of the conversation about women's reproductive rights, unless you are supporting them. Pro-life is probably my other rant. And again, sorry if I'm all over the place, but again, I told you I got to get this out. Pro-life. Whose life? Because I'm here as a woman, and there are things that happen in a woman's body. I mean, it's a risk. Realistically, it's a risk every time a woman gets pregnant, because a lot of times, especially African-American women, but it is a risk every time you get pregnant. Your body has gone through so many things. I have not had the privilege to be pregnant yet. However, all of the women I know around me, they talk about the things that your body goes through, the hormonal changes, the physical changes. I mean, you're literally carrying a whole nother life. And you make that choice to carry that life. And heaven forbid that life that's inside of you, that thing that's inside of you, all of a sudden becomes something that's killing you. Do I not have a right to choose my life? Pro-life people? Because in reality, if something is inside of me and it's hurting me and it's causing me pain and it's at the point to where it may kill me, then scientifically it should be removed. If you have a ruptured appendix or an organ that is not operating properly, you go into surgery and you have that removed. So the way the laws are set up now with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the access to safe abortions, there are going to be women who have to walk around here with parasites inside of them. There are going to be women that have to walk around here and carry a baby to term and deliver a stillborn child, or deliver a child that has already been declared incapable of living outside of the mother's womb. Like, that's the part that people don't want to talk about. And again, I on the show that I was on, and again, it was a great debate. It was a great conversation, and I'll link it in the chat. However, the thing that really triggered me was the focus was always on the unwed mother or the teen girl. Yes, those are statistics that young girls often have to get abortions. But there are also adult women who are married, who have to make some tough decisions. And then I hate when I see the people who say things like, well, you should stop having sex and stop getting pregnant if you don't want to have an abortion. So you mean to tell me that as someone that is married, I guess I'm not supposed to have sex with my spouse so that I don't put myself in a position to get pregnant, so that I don't put myself in a position to ever need an abortion? Make it make sense, because it doesn't. But again, these are arguments that people say. They make no sense, but these are their arguments. But again, back to this whole woman's body, whose life, whose reproductive rights are we really focused on? Abortion is a part of healthcare. It shouldn't even be a part of legislation at all. That's the brunt of what I really want to say. Because the reality is a man can go out and have sex every single day of his life and have multiple children, and there are zero consequences. There are zero regulations. There's no sperm ejaculation regulation situation in the legislation. And the fact that those things don't exist, but yet again, we have these old people, and I'm just going to say it. We have these old people, we have these men who are making these decisions, and then they're trying to, of course, incorporate your religion. Again, like I said before, if you don't want to have an abortion, do not have one. But do not take away my right to be able to do what I need to do for my body. It's my body. It's my choice. You need my permission to do anything to me. And of course, I'm sure by now you've already heard about the young girl, the 10-year-old girl in the state of Ohio who had to go to Indiana in order to get an abortion. Because as soon as June 24th hit, all of these states have all of these rules and trigger bans and 6-week ban and abortion ban all together. And then they say things like, well, there's exceptions for rape or incest, or there's exceptions in the case of the harm of the mother. But who's to determine why there should be exceptions? If I say, no, I don't want to have this baby, exception. ACCEPTION, accept it. If I decide that my body cannot handle this, or I'm not in a good mental state to handle this, exception, ACCEPTION, accept it. There shouldn't be all these hierarchies of, well, this is okay to have an abortion, but this is not okay. And this is acceptable, but this is not acceptable. And for that poor 10-year-old little girl, people were so focused on the fact that she was 10. This might not even be true. It might just be made up because of the current things, the current things going on in the world. That also tells me that you have no right to be making legislation and rules about a woman's body, because there are girls as young as, 7, 8 years old that can start their menstrual cycle. And again, there may be very few men that watch my show, but to those men who do watch the show, or maybe you could send it to a man, once you start menstruating and having your menstrual cycle, you can then get pregnant. That's how it works. If you start your cycle at 6 years old, guess what? You can be 7 years old and get pregnant. It can happen. So the fact that people didn't even want to believe the story, and they're like, they made it up. And then the focus was all on why she had to do it and why she had to go to a different state. Where is the man who did it to her? Again, even in a situation of a rape, it's still focusing on the woman and not the man that did it to her. Like, it's heartbreaking. It's truly, truly, truly heartbreaking that my human life is less important and has less rights than a life that may never exist. And then you have the people who say things like, I'm here to support the unborn. That's great. But what about all these borns that are here now, that are still suffering, that are in foster care, that were found in dumpsters, that are having to be left with a elderly grandparent or a cousin or somebody because that woman did not want to have that baby? What about the children that have to grow up in poverty because instead of spending X amount of dollars, few $100s to have an abortion, she was forced to carry that child who she knew she couldn't financially support? So again, you're really advocating for something that really just doesn't exist. And I know there's the controversy of when does life begin? If you cannot survive without my organs and my blood and my eating and my nutrition, then you are technically not a child. Last time I checked, can you pay men? Have you ever been asked to pay child support for a fetus? No. If you are not born, you are not a child. And to sit here and again put the focus on the woman and all the things the woman needs to do, where I'm just waiting for the legislation. Where is the legislation for the men? There's zero. I looked at all 50 states. All 50. There's nothing. This is frustrating. And I've been wanting to get this off my chest for a while. And again, I've been researching and looking at articles and reading things, and it's not getting any better. And I feel like at some point, the men who are running the country, who are making these laws, need to step up and say, this really isn't our business. And the thing that just popped into my head, and my rant's about to be over because it's going to be a quick rant, is that for the person, I'm not even going to say the young girl, but for the person who finds themselves in that situation where they need to end a pregnancy, and they're in one of those red, and I don't mean as in Republican, I mean red as in trigger bans and full restrictive abolition of abortion, no exceptions, all those situations. If you find yourself in one of those states and you have to go 2, 3, 4 states over just to get the abortion, it's heartbreaking. But let, Joe Smith, the politician, let his daughter get pregnant, and heaven forbid she's raped. And again, I wish rape on nobody. I've been raped before. I wish rape on nobody. But just say she's in a predicament where she needs to end her pregnancy. Guess what they gonna do? Gas up the jet. They're gonna go to whatever state they need to go to. It's gonna get done. We're never gonna talk about it. We probably won't even hear about it. But then the girl who couldn't get in the jet, who couldn't afford to go 3, 4 states over to safely do it, she's going to have to make a weird phone call or send a weird text message or find a weird hotel room or weird back alley to take care of her situation. And it might cost her life. So I want people to think about the overall picture of what this overturning of Roe v. Wade really is about. Because as a woman, you have rights to do what you need to do for your body. And as a woman, if you make a decision for your body, you should be able to do that without any repercussions. I am heartbroken over the stories I've read about women who are bleeding out in hospital emergency rooms because the doctor is afraid to perform the procedure because they don't want to get in trouble. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I'm going to, of course, continue to follow this. And I know that there have been some recent progressions made in this area to try to get some kind of resolution to this. But I want you to think about the bigger picture when you are having the conversation about Roe versus Wade and it being overturned and the access to safe abortion, safe women's reproductive health care. Think about the bigger picture. And be mindful of who you're voting for. Be mindful of who you're putting in office and the decisions that they're making. Do they really align with your values? Because at this point in life, it makes you almost afraid to want to even have children. It makes you afraid to even want to bring more people into this world. But again, it's about the economics. It's about how many more people we can get. And then I heard through the grapevine, and I'm going to leave this thing alone, that apparently they're worried about eventually becoming the minority. And you know who the they is that I'm talking about. And forcing somebody to do something against their will never has the best consequences. So while you talk about women who do have abortions, have blood on their hands, the women who make the decision to choose their life have blood on their hands. No, it's you with the blood on your hands. Thanks for watching.